Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight.
Welcome to Crazy Carrot Studios. My name's James, and today we're going to do a little bit of a refresher about functions and variables. Okay, back in our project here, I wanted to give a quick refresher about the functions and some other things we've learned about. So I created another script that we put on our script manager called functions. It's just a default script, you can call it whatever you like, but it's mainly there to show us how the functions are really working in a real-time experience. So I'm going to move this console up here instead of the game view because we're not going to be dealing with the scene view or game view at all in this one. I just want to show you how the different functions are firing off. So here I created my script here, and I created a couple different functions. This should be two. There we go. I've got a couple different functions here that are going to fire off different things at different times. So for example, the void start, which comes with every default Unity script, basically fires off at the start of the game only. So you're going to see an example of that when we hit play. Same thing with the update and fixed update, so you can better understand how these are firing off when we go into play. So I'm using a debug log, which is a way to test things out to see if they are firing off where you want them to fire off and give you other information if you need it. So by coming in here and hitting play, you'll notice that we're going to get some pop-ups here. The first one, I want to go back to console. The first one fired off when we're start, and it only did it one time. That's because at the start of the game, you only are using that start function once. Then you have the fixed rate. If you notice the fixed rate and the regular update, they are coming out way different. That's because the regular update comes out every frame, whereas this one is being fired off at a fixed rate based on Unity's code. Now let's go a step further into understanding some of these other ones. Now that we understand the update and the fixed update a little better maybe, and the start we know only fires at the start, I'm going to show you how to create some custom ones. Now, for example, this first one here, it's fired off only when it's called, which is correct. So if we called it here in the start, and we're going to call custom function 1, and this is how you call the function right there. If we click this off, it's going to fire this off before it goes to debug log. So let's take a look and see how that's going to look when we come in here. Let's hit play. Go back to our console, and I fired off only when called. That's our original function that we created into the start here. So it's reading custom function and firing off the debug log. Now because of the order, it's firing that off before it does this part, which is why the second one in there is I fire off at the game start. The other two are not affected by that in whatsoever. Now, if we were to put that into the update, it would have been calling it off all this different time. This is why it's also not a good idea to use a lot of functions inside of update, because it's going to slow and bog your game down because every frame is calling these functions. And the more functions you're calling, it's calling all of them this many times. So when you're playing a game, it can really slow your FPS down. If you can avoid doing this, this is what you want to do. A good way of getting around that is coroutines, which we're not into that yet, but it's something that you can look into later on. Now, there is something else you can do with a custom function that's going to be different from the regular function here, is you can pass in your values that you want for it. So in this particular case, we're going to go to a debug log, and we are going to print log. Now log is right here. Let's go ahead and close that out. I don't know why there's two brackets, we only need one. There we go. So log is right here. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to pass in this string. But by doing so, first we're going to go to custom 2, and then in here, it needs that string of log. So we're going to type in log. But right now, log does not mean anything. We fired it off just like this. That string is going to be absolutely nothing. So we need to define what log is. So in this particular case, we'll say log is equal to, we need to make sure it's in a string. This is my log I am passing in. Okay, so now we know this log is a string, so it's taking a string value, and we're going to pass that string value into the function. So this way, we pass it in here as a log, and then we're going to use that function, that same log that we're passing in, into our debug log to read that string that we have here. Now, you might not see a whole lot of use for this right now, but in future episodes you will see why we would do something like this. So let's go ahead and play and see how this looks when we do that. So it should come up here, and before the start, it should call that. Let's go here. And this is the log I am passing in, which is exactly what we said this was going to be. Now you notice in here, I didn't have to type this entire part because we passed the string through the variable. Now, another one that we can do here is use a function to return a type. So, for example, we've got private, let's say our age is 27, and let's say our name is equal to Carrot. Or no, actually I take that back. We're Bob, we're always Bob. So, our name is Bob. Oh, I got that as we need a string. If I could spell. Okay, so our name is Bob. I need to make sure I put that in the parentheses. Like so. So now what I can do here with another function, and we're going to make this one a return function. So we're going to call a private int instead of void, and we're going to call this update age. And let's say I want to, because this is private and I can no longer access this from another script or any other way, I can return the value for that age by doing return age. And what it's going to do is find the age here and return it as a thing. Now, for doing that, you usually want to make this one a public. That way you can access this from another code. And let's say I want to at start, and let me go ahead and take some of these other ones out. I'm going to say, I want to know the age of it, and then we're just going to call update age. So when I call update age, it's going to pass in nothing except for 27 because we are returning that age. The same thing can be done with a string. Let's say we do a public string. And we're going to say this one called update name. Now we can return the name that we have here. All right, so now we know that these are going to return the age and the name based on this. So let's take this a step further here, and let's create a public int, and we're going to call it age, but without the underscore, and we're not going to give it a value. And a public string called name, done the same way. It's going to be without the underscore and with no value. So in here, we're going to give age is equal to update age. Name is equal to update name. So basically, we're going to say the public variable age is equal to our private variable that we cannot read from another script. So let's say we were on a completely different script. I can reference it by returning this update age, which is a public function, and giving that total to it. This is helpful in things like a health script or something like that, when you're trying to get a private variable to read off to a different script so you know how much damage to give or something like that. So for example, on this one here, we're going to make sure in this debug log that happens only at the start, we're going to fire off my name is, and then we're going to say plus, and we're just going to pass in name. Now, the other thing I could do is, instead of typing all this out, I could just say plus update name, and it would return the value. We're just returning the value to a public function is all. So we're going to do another debug .log. My age is, I'm going to do a plus, and we're just going to pass in age. And just so you can see one more time, debug.log. My age is again, and this time I'm just going to say update age. And so you'll notice that this is exactly the same thing. I'm just passing it in from here. So when we get here, when we hit play on start, you're going to see my name is Bob, and my age is 27. My age again, 27. And it's not getting it from these functions here because these are private. It is returning the value from this function here. So let's see how that's going to all look. Let me go ahead and save it. Let's hit play. Let's go to our consoles. And we see my name is Bob, exactly what we said it was. And my age is 27. My age again is 27. So both of them return the exact same way. They're just two different ways of doing the same thing. And of course, the fixed update and the regular update are just continuing on as normal. I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about the functions that we have created and how we were doing them before. Now, in our next video, we're going to go over starting up a health and damage script to go along with our character. And from all of us at Crazy Carrot Studios, we would like to say thank you. And don't forget to please like and subscribe. We will see you next time when we get back to Learning with Bob.